Here we have a copy of an 1858 Remington, and this one is done by Pietta. It's billed out to be one of the best shooters, best of the best of the best type of thing. Date code is a BR or possibly a BP. And what they've done on this gun, and maybe they're doing some of this now on their current productions, but this one has a crown muzzle. Pretty sure on the current ones we don't see a windage adjustable front sight like this one has got, dovetailed in on the Piettas. I think Uberities have those. Moving up the barrel, we're seeing some fine print lettering on here that I think would be, I'm not familiar with the original Remingtons, but I think it's maybe close to what they had on them. As far as the rear sight configuration goes, this is a standard non-adjustable sight, same as originals would have had on them. Trigger pull on this one is around 1.6 to 1.8, which would be very good for target shooting, which is what this gun is set up to do. One of the big sell points on this, or the if it's a sell point or not, but it's the way these come is they have a gain twist rifling setup, and that means that there's practically no twist at all to the rifling for the first section of it. And then gradually as we move down the barrel, we're going to find that the twist will increase and max out towards the end. I'm guessing or been reading that maybe it's a 1 in 16 by the time the ball gets going down here. But the ball does not have to jump immediately to its top RPMs within this first section, which is what it has to do if you don't have a gain twist. This way the ball can gradually build up its twist and hopefully not strip itself as it goes down the barrel, and therefore lose the spin and stability. So this is the reason that this gun is supposedly one of the more accurate pieces. I say it's had some work on the trigger, sighting, muzzle has been crowned. Not sure what the forcing cone is looking like inside, but I'm betting they've done a pretty good job on that. These are probably 2 to 3 times the cost of a standard replica in the Remington form. I got this gun used, had it for about 6 months, and this is the first time I shot it. I'll go right to the shooting of the first target, and after show the loading method that I used and 4 targets that I shot with it, and also some comments. So here's our first string with this Pietta. Number 11 cap worked just fine. Pretty impressed with that first shot. Trigger pull was right where we like it. We need to get something to eat or we'll skip lunch. And my nerves ain't what it used to be. We got one left. We're firing pretty much point aim on that black square. 21 yards. Well, I'd say we don't have to adjust sights at all in this GAB. She's right there. Results of the first group that we shot with our 1858 Pietta with the gain twist. Looking a whole lot better than we imagined. So here's a group we fired, and we've got ourselves a ruler here. Try to get center to center on the widest 6 shots. I think probably about here. Somewhere's in there. So we're looking center to center at maybe even a tad less than 1.5 inches. Now that's 21 yards, so it's not a 25-yard target, but anyway, considering, we'll see what the next one does, but I'm not looking to any improvement over that. That's as best I can do, and I think the gun is capable of outshooting my ability to hold the sights. At least that's what I'm getting from this target. So we got the results from 5 groups with our, we'll call it accurized Pietta. I guess actually Navy Arms, when they sold these, not sure if they still are, they called them the Deluxe model. That might still be the term that's applied to that. Anyway, our first group was pretty fantastic. I think 1.25 inches for 6 shots, maybe 1.5 inches. Followed up by second group, another one that looks pretty decent. Then things widen out a bit. Last 3 targets still respectable, but lower on the target. I'm suspicious that using a rest on the front of the barrel may have caused this. Recoil then being different, without my hold against gravity, the upward barrel recoil may need to act against gravity and not be in the same position when the ball leaves as when I'm holding the gun. Just a theory, maybe I'll get a chance to do some more testing on it. Since the load didn't change, something I figure caused the groups to be lower. Notice here that the 5th target was shot the same as the first 2 without the front rest, and the group seems to have raised back up again. So moving over to the reloading bench. For the powder we're going to use is FFF GoX. We'll be using a Lee 1.0 powder dipper, and that throws a charge of around 15-16 grains of this FFF. Once the powder is in the cylinder, then on top of that we're going to place a paper disc. The purpose of that would be to separate the powder from the next thing that we load in or put in, which would be the cornmeal. That acts as a filler. What it does is gives you the ability to compress the black powder, where if you have a small charge like that, you're not going to probably be able to get the ball down far enough in the cylinder. You'll be leaving an airspace in there, and that's just not a good thing. That's a no-no. So the cornmeal will take up that job of giving us the ability to compress the 3F powder, not having dead space in there. We'll probably use about a 1.6 powder dipper for the cornmeal. If that doesn't work, we'll find something that does. And then once we get the cornmeal in, we're putting the 457 round ball on top of that. Press things down. What we use is a tool over here that helps to, I don't know if it saves us time or whatever, but we don't actually load the cylinder in the gun, with the exception of capping it. So on top of the ball, then we're going to use some of our lubrication. Helps keep the fouling soft, and a lot of times it's used to prevent chain fires, which would be when one of the cylinders, besides the one you're shooting, goes off, which can happen if there's a flashover on the end of the cylinder and it gets by the ball into the powder. But since we have quite a amount of cornmeal, it's going to be going down in that thing. That probably wouldn't happen anyway. So the purpose of our lubrication probably is more like to keep the fouling soft. It's probably more of an accuracy thing. So we'll get loading this thing up, and we'll then get to shooting it. So we're taking the cylinder out of the gun here, and determined that it's going to shoot a different ball than the Piettas we've been shooting in the past here. We've used a 451 Lee cast, and that's worked out well in them. We set one of those on top of the cylinder here, it just dropped all the way to the bottom, so that's a tad small. 454 actually went in a ways past the center point of the sphere, so that one isn't going to do what we want either, and that leaves us with a 457, and that's the choice that we'll use on this cylinder. Actually, that's kind of a good sign in a way, because depending on what size their bore diameter is on these guns, the actual ball won't get sized down by the cylinder past the point where it might not stand a chance. Otherwise, if it does get sized down too much, it won't have as much grip. The rifling won't have as much grip on the ball. So we're kind of thinking that maybe this is set up to fill out the barrel when it fires more out to the actual what would be the groove diameter, I guess is what it's called, where the riflings are cut into it. So these are the choices we had, and we're going to go with the 457. This is about a 16 grain load of triple F GoX. I'm not real fussy about getting an exact weighed charge. I believe that at 25 yards that's not as important as other things in the loading and shooting area. I'm using a paper disc over the powder. It's about the cardstock thickness, and it's cut with a 7/16 inch punch. It separates the powder from the cornmeal. You need to be sure that they're flat on the powder, and I'm not sure it's worth the extra hassle, but I've been doing this, so I wanted to use the same procedure in testing this gun. A 1.cc dipper seemed to work out to give us about the right amount of cornmeal for this cylinder. Too much can give problems as far as compressing it on the powder, not leaving enough room for the ball to clear the cylinder end. So you don't want to run this too far up on the cylinders, otherwise there wouldn't be room for the ball, and you don't compress that down far enough, then this thing will not clear the frame of the gun, and that's a bad deal. So we're not paying any particular attention to the orientation of the spruce on these things either. We'll get this little board thing that we created out of the way and get our compressing tool, or whatever you want to call it, in the spot. I try to use a uniform amount of pressure on each cylinder and check to be sure that the ball isn't beyond the cylinder end. Depending on the amount of filler, and in this case had to redo a couple that weren't down quite far enough to clear. Could use a little attention, and I think we got it. Okay, so we've got a loaded cylinder, well, except for of course the caps. And we're also going to add a little bit of lubrication around these things. To slide a little in that hole either to keep that cylinder freer so it spins a little better once the black powder starts to cook things up. Alright, next step be to put that back in our gun. I think if I remember right, you slide it underneath like this. Don't be drawing the hammer back right away. At least that's the way I found this. And it's going to go in a ways and starts to hit the lockup bolt down here. And the reason you do that is so you can get it by the hand. Then you can bring back the hammer some. At that point you can either try to slide the base pin in. If it goes, we're lucky, as it did in that one. So we're there. Lock up. And final step will be to put the caps on the nipples here. I used a number 11 Remington, which seemed okay. Sometimes pinch a cap if it's too large. Don't need it falling off to jam the gun, or worse, fall off in a flash could set off the adjacent cylinder.